Good evening, everyone. Say hello in the comments. I'm getting everything connected, so give me just a minute. I'm waiting on Facebook to come up. Hopefully it'll connect. You never know about technology, do you? It is starting, it says. So give me just a minute and we'll let some others come on, and then we'll get started. Hey, Robin. I'm waiting on Facebook to connect. Not sure what it's doing, so give me just a second. Hopefully it'll connect. All right, there we go. Now we're connected. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. All right. So if you're just jumping on, be sure and tell me where you're from. Say hello. And I am going to get the comments up on Facebook so I can see that. Hey, Nancy. We got two Nancys, Nancy and Nancy. Good evening. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get the comments up for Facebook, so it takes me just a second to get all that. And that doesn't even mean that I can see it. Oh, hi, Jean. Okay, Facebook is working. Yay. And we are live on YouTube. All right, good evening, everyone. I am going to do this live. I'm not feeling well. I'm on the verge of a migraine, so bear with me. I'll do as much as I can, and if we need to continue at another time, I will. Hey, Julie. And everybody that's jumping on. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Like I said, I'm on the verge of a migraine. The first thing I want to do is to show you the glass pieces from last week in person so that you can see those and tell you a couple of things. Then we'll jump to the ceramic pieces, how you can enhance your pieces, make them different. Hopefully it would be a step above if you do shows. It's just another little added step that makes your work unique and different from others. Not everybody does this type of decorating. So think about that as you're doing shows, how much you want to, depends on what kind of shows, how much you want to put, how much work you want to put into it also. So I do have, since we're working with the piping paste tonight, I did put all the piping paste kits on sale. So I'm going to pop those up. So this shows you, you could buy the bottles separately, you can buy kits. That just shows you the black and white singly and the black and white kit, but the kits include the bottle, the tips, the syringe to clean it, the brush, the tool to put the piping slip in the bottles, all of that. And we'll briefly go over that again. I have a lot of other videos on piping. It's a playlist out on my YouTube, so definitely go back and revisit those as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn the camera down. Hey, Steve, Linda, Mary, everybody's popping on. Okay. So last week, I think it was last week. I'm pretty sure it was. I lose track of what I'm doing. We did the stamping and using the color concentrates on thin fire. I also used the color concentrates and stenciled on, used a pouncer sponge, and you can go back and watch that video to put on the background, and I use nutmeg. It gives it a very vintage look. I really like it. You could go back with the piping paste, and I'll do a couple of things on here. You can always take it off. You can soak it in water if you don't like something, but you could do some little accents on some of this stencil work that you have in the background. Robin says she likes the bottles. Awesome. Thank you, thank you. Yes, I am buying it all. Won't be buy it all. Won't be disappointed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really easy to use. You can use, years and years ago when I was first taught piping by Jeanette McCoy, and she used a piping bag in the tips. I did that for years. This just seems a little more readily accessible for people to put it in the bottles to do the paste work. So that's the reason I go with that now. But if you like to do cake decorating and you like to pipe out, Some people just can't do it. I've had carpal tunnel surgery, so both of them hurt my wrist to do it at long periods of time anyway. So this one we did the stencil, used the stencil brushes and the CCs. I cut out a shape using the cookie cutter as my shape, and then we put the CCs on it. So what I did was just come in and I accented a couple of different ways, added the holly leaves with the paste, and we're going to add the holly leaves down here so you can see how that works. But if you make a mistake, you can take it off. You can also scratch it off. You can also soak this off if you wanted to. So if I don't like this at all, I can go put it in the sink for 10 minutes or so and then just take a tool and scratch it off. Okay, but it is a nice way to adorn your pieces, accent your pieces, make them different than others. This was another one that I did. This has a stencil in the background, the stamping, and then a stencil on the actual glass itself. So I don't think I'd add anything to this one because it's busy enough. Unless you wanted to outline the tree, that would be an option. And we could do that to show you that later. The other thing I want to tell you about, and I did post and talk about it, is, hey Shauna, hey Janice, is the larger you get when you start working with thin fire paper between fused glass, you can start getting cracks and wrinkles. So be very careful. I wouldn't go over 8 inches personally. This one came out a little light, so you could even tint your piping paste. You can tint it with enamels. You can tint it with color concentrates, which would be the cheapest and the best way, I think, to tint it. And you could go back and you could accent some of these scrolls with that piping paste. You're never going to get the true color because remember, you're working with a white base, so whatever color you put into it is going to be a pastel. Unless you're doing acrylics, then you're going to get that color, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so those are the pieces that we did before. All right, so I want to start with the glass real quick. Put these out of the way. And clean your glass with white distilled vinegar, just with a shop towel, paper towel, something that you like to clean. So I clean my corners here again with that. Now, the piping paste comes, so basically, if you were doing it on, remember we did this tree? Well, the reason I have the back, and I did the second one with you guys, see how it's plain? And the reason for that is because you can come in and accent with piping paste. And I'm going to show you how to tint this and color this. This has not been fired on, but I will fire it on. And we'll talk about that too. So the piping paste comes in white and black in 4-ounce jars. You don't want it any larger than that because it has the shelf life is not the best. Okay, so it's thick like marshmallow fluff would be a good, see that? It's just, so what you want to do is put that into your piping bottle. So we have the piping kits that come in the 1/2-ounce size and the 1-ounce size. If you don't have strong hands, I would not get the smaller bottle. You'll think, oh, I won't waste as much. These are really hard to squeeze. I don't recommend those at all. They're great for some other liquid products, but not for the paste. I wouldn't. So you're just going to put that in there. And I've already filled this, but I wanted to make sure you knew how to put it in. So the tool comes with the kit, or you can buy it separately, or you may have it and you just need to pick up parts and pieces, maybe another jar of paste. Don't buy this until you're ready to use it. Okay, the sale is on for a week. If you're going to use it before Christmas, then buy it. Okay, but if you're not going to get to it this year, don't buy it. I would put a piece of saran over this, put your lid back on, and then put it back. We send it usually in a Ziploc bag 90% of the time. Put it in a Ziploc, and if you live in a community or a city that's like, Arizona, where it's really dry, I even tell the customers to put that bag in the fridge. Just mark it that it is do not eat, so that nobody grabs it and thinks it's marshmallow fluff, right? That's kind of what it looks like, or it used to look like. Hey, Jameson, you made it. Awesome. Okay, so I've got my piping bottle full of my paste. It comes with a little cap and it's just righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So turn to the left to take it off, and then I'm going to pick up the white tip, righty-tighty, half a turn. If you keep twisting this on, you're never going to get it off. Okay, so don't overdo it. You can take a damp towel, put some water on it, and use that to protect your tip, to keep that fresh and to keep the tip clean. You can also put a damp sponge in a little container, like a mug or something, and you can leave it laying, you know, against that. The problem is, make sure you don't, either one of them, that you're not transferring water to your piece, okay? Because that can be a huge mistake. All right, so let's do our vein first, is what I like to do, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can get rid of that glare. Move this down, and let's do that. All right, so this has a bent tip, okay? Don't go straight on like this guy, okay? You want to have it laying down so that you can see what's coming out. You never want to come towards yourself. You don't want to make a full circle. You want to just go away from yourself like you were writing, okay? All right, I think you can see this. And I have not tested this, so I'm going to test it over here to make sure it's coming out, which it is. And then let me tilt that just a little bit. So I'm going to just stay in contact with the glass. And what I want to make sure you understand, it doesn't matter what surface you're working on, it's the same principle. Whether you're doing it on ceramic, you're doing it on the glass, or if you're doing it on the non-fired ornaments, it's the same technique. So any of the, you're going to go out to YouTube and find some of those other videos, and you're going to say, oh, this is on glass, I don't do glass. It doesn't matter. The same technique works on all surfaces, okay? So keep that in mind. Hey, Ms. Nell. Hey, CJ. Awesome. Thanks for joining. I always like to do my stems first, let them dry a minute. You also will need to have some of your glass medium, which comes in the kit, the GM300. I put a little bit in a well. I've got 2 wells, and I like to do like a dirty and a clean. And then the brush that comes in that kit is our 2004 KB for Kolinsky blend. It's Kolinsky and synthetic hairs. And always, what do? We dampen our brush, blot it on a towel to remove the moisture. We need to have that wet, but I'm also going to dip it into my medium. And then I like to just pinch out the excess. Now when I say pinch, I'm not saying squeeze it all out. You can still see there's moisture on my hand. You just are basically pinching out the excess and then leaving it in there. The reason you're doing that is because you need to condition the brush so that if you don't get it clean enough in between, or you had to lay it down, it's not going to harden and ruin your brush. And what that does is make a flat, or like more of a filbert type shape. You can use it on the chisel at this time, or you can use it on the flat, either one. Okay? Did I just see my tree? Steve said, yes, Steve, it is your tree. And you know what? I got home and I have another one, believe it or not. But yes, I'll show the whole thing in just a minute. So give me a second. It was so cool. It's my gingerbread tree. That's why I wanted a plain surface. All right, so we're going to make the holly shape. Oops. And come up and stop, because we work slowly, so you don't want to do too much. Okay, so then what's going to happen is I'm taking the flat edge and I'm going to just pull. I'm going to touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. So I'm not getting rid of that whole line. I want that outline, but I also want it to feather. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to take the excess that's on my brush, wipe it out on a towel, and I'm going to go over here and clean that brush. And I'm just going to sit the brush on the towel and gently squeeze out that excess, since I have my hand holding this, okay? But you can do it between your fingers if you want. All right, so let's do this side. So come up. It's hard to do when you're holding it. And And like I said, I'm not at 100% tonight, so bear with me. All right, so then always start from where you stopped. So you're going to start from that top and just touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, and touch and pull. So if you don't want to, the biggest concern is don't make this come all the way down to the center vein to start your strokes. You want to back off about 1/4 of an inch or so that when you pull that stroke, you're completing the rest of that. So I'm going to rinse it, wipe out the excess, and pinch on my towel. Does that make sense, everybody? Shauna says, my word, take my money. I made it for a little while. Awesome, Drew. Yeah, you don't get to always make it on the lives. But the replays are always there, and, you know, Facebook, unfortunately, is deleting videos, so you can always find it on my YouTube channel. But the same application, it doesn't matter what surface you're working on. Okay, so press, so catch and pull, catch and pull, and I'm just doing kind of a sweeping method. Do you see? I'm just touching and then I'm lifting up, touch and lift, touch and lift, touch and lift. Wipe off the excess, clean in the medium, back to the towel, slightly pinch out the excess moisture. So Robin, you said yes, it does. I'm not sure what that means, what you're referring to. Do I need to answer something? So if you weren't here in the beginning, I'm on the verge of a migraine today. I had one Saturday, so I'm not 100%, but I didn't want to cancel this. I had to cancel my Zoom class on Saturday. I was down with a migraine. So touch and pull, touch and pull. So what you're basically doing is creating that veining. Now, if you wanted this to be a color, you could tint it, put it in your piping bottles, and pipe with it. But you can also color on top, which I'm going to show you, because that's why I had some of this done, because I wanted to show you if you wanted to put a darker green, or say you wanted to accent red on some of these that I put on here, you could do that. Okay? Any questions about that so far? Drew is in Florida, packing up her dad to move. Well, safe travels. Hey, Marie. Okay, so you would let that dry before you ever try to put any kind of coloring on it if you're going to color, okay? And what I mean by that, I'll show you a ornament, and it was just a test one. So you can come in on top of your dried paste, and you can shade, you can brush on acrylic. This is, of course, non-fired. This is a glass ornament, which it's very hard to find anymore. Okay, so I have a stock. And now I'm glad when COVID hit that we had a hard time getting a lot of the ornaments. All right, so I'm going to go back to this one here and just say pick something. Okay, so if I wanted there to be maybe, so I'm going to put a dot, and watch this. I'm going to take a high-tech tool. I'm going to take a toothpick, and I'm going to touch to the middle of that and just pull. Isn't that pretty? So simple, but you could go in and you could accent different places if you have a background put on there. For adding the color, Britt asks, can you go back way later, like months? Yeah, as long as it's dry and it hasn't been fired, you can go back and do it. Absolutely. So if I know I'm not going to use that, I can just take my towel and I can clean it off. You would want to make sure that if you ended up doing something else over that, that you cleaned it with your white distilled vinegar, just to make sure there's no residue on there. You can even come in like with a Q-tip, pointed Q-tip, like a makeup Q-tip, and you can clean areas if it's in between. Okay, let me check for questions real quick. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, we're gonna put this one away also. We're gonna let that dry. So if I wanted, let's say up here on the darker ones, I did not get my darker green out, so let me grab it. 162. The color concentrate, you could put enamels on there too if you wanted, but your color concentrates are cheaper. So I'm trying to, the paste is not cheap. And I forgot to say, I always date mine so that I know if this is 6 months old, I may not, it may not be good. A year at the most. Now, the other thing, I don't know if you noticed, and I didn't say, keep the inside scraped down, because any of this that's dry at the top cannot be reconstituted. If this is thick, you can add a couple of drops of the glass medium, which comes in the kit. Just do a couple of drops at a time, stir. Or if you've had it in your bottle for a while, you can open your bottle up and you can just put a couple of drops in there and then shake it really well. So keep that tip down in that moist towel, because you want to keep that from clogging, and you also want to keep it free of any debris, because you don't, meaning any chunks that might be on there that would get onto your piece as you're decorating. All right, so let's CC 162 Laurel Green. We don't need but a dot of it. Very strong, goes a long ways. All right, and hopefully Paula won't stick her fingers in the other holly. If I do, I'll just clean it off and do it again. I'm going to use the small semi brush. I'm going to put it in water, and then I'm going to kind of blot it on my towel so it's not real watery. And I'm just barely, it barely has any on there. And I can come in here and I can tuck that in, sit it down, mush, mush, mush. Walk it one way, just like we do on other applications. Do you see? It falls down in the crevices, and it'll do this with your acrylics also. I have a separate set of semi brushes that I keep for acrylics and one for my fired product, because I don't want them to contaminate each other and ruin my project in the kiln. But I'm going to tilt this back. Isn't that cool how you can add that color? And it just falls down in there and antiques is what it's doing, and gives you that veining. Nancy says, I'm going to Florida next week. Will there be a problem changing my mailing address? No, just send me an email and tell me the order number and tell me when you want me to ship it, Nancy. Okay? And we'll get it worked out. Unless you've already ordered it. If you just ordered today, I know somebody ordered later this afternoon, and I know that order isn't out, but everything else is out that was in-house, except for one order. We have one stamp we're waiting on, but if you had stamps from the other class ordered, those 95% of them went out today. You should have an email telling you, tracking, or that your order is complete. But isn't that cool how you can change that? So now it's softer. This is more, let me turn the light back, dramatic. It stands out, goes with this, but this is nice, soft, and subtle. So when I curve this into like a sushi type dish, it'll look really nice. All right, let me double check for comments and stuff. I don't know if I'm getting the Facebook ones anymore or not. Hopefully I am. Let me go over and try to refresh and make sure. Okay, I'm good. So now that you have added the color, Britt says, do you have to fire it again? Yes, you would. Now, if you did just the paste, it will harden in 24 hours. You don't have to fire it, but you will not be able to submerge this. So you would have to fire it back to 1380 with a 10-minute hold if you're on fused glass to cure that color and the paste, and then it's good. You can go to a full fuse, but it's going to sink into your glass because the glass is open and it's going to start absorbing it. You're not going to get the texture of it. You'll have a tiny bit of texture, but not very much. Okay, so if we wanted some red on these areas, or maybe a dot of red, I'm going to use the 112 Candy Apple Red. And this, remember, the same thing I'm doing would work on ceramic also. And let's just grab a stylus and maybe just put a dot on some of these areas. So I could just put just a little dot there on these top ones that are a little bit thicker, and that'll make it kind of stand out. It's going to absorb into the paste. If you were doing acrylics, you could do the same thing with an acrylic color. Okay, kind of cool. Can you see that red? There, you can see it better. So the firing paper does wrinkle a little bit. Don't try to put it in like a really deep bowl type shape, because it could pull, you know, as it's bending. The other thing to notice, and we talked about it when we were stamping, do you see the white background, how it looks pearly? That is just the firing paper, and I talked about that last week, by itself. So you could just put just the tree, not even any color on it, put it in there. Snowflake would be beautiful on a blue piece of glass, and then cut you out a snowflake, do punches with snowflakes, and it would be absolutely stunning. Okay. All right, so that's how you use it on there. And then I would have to wait till these dry to go back. But you can see the difference. You want it subtle, or do you want it really bold? Okay. What cone do you fire the ceramic? Bill asked. Bill, we're going to fire it to an 015, 016. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, we did the stamping on the trees, and I showed you how to do the background. Okay, so you get just the normal green, and then what I did was I came in here and I added the paste. I'm going to show you that on this piece, but look, you can do the same thing here. I'm going to bump up to the medium sumi brush, get it wet, blot out some of the moisture. I'm going to grab that 162 again, and you can add it on here also, and it's going to kind of bleed and run into the crevices that you've done with whatever brushwork. And I did this a couple of different ways, and I'll explain it and show you in just a second. Let's just do another one here. But isn't that cool? So you can come back and accent. So maybe you did a ceramic ornament and you just clear glazed it, or you put black glaze on it, or gosh, do they still have, anyway, any color you wanted to do. And then you can come in here and shade that, and now it looks completely different. I could have tinted the paste and put these little teardrops on, or once again, you could come in and you could do, I'm going to do the sumi brush this time, the small sumi with that 112 candy apple red. And let's go up here to this one. Let me take a little bit of that off. And you could come in here and shade those if you wanted. A little more work than a dot, but you can do it. And because it's sitting on top, it's going to stay fairly red. Okay. And then you could also take the tip of that brush. You may want to use the mini brush, the mini sumi, and you could come in here, and now you've got a totally different look, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I have videos on several on the ornaments and stuff. Lots of different paste. If you just go look at the paste playlist on YouTube, you'll find it. So Jean says for ceramics, this will be fired to 06 with, no, this is already fired to 06. Okay, so this is going to be fired. That's what Bill was asking. This is going to be fired to an 015 or an 016, kind of like a decal firing. That will set the color and make it so that you can wash it. Do you have to fire it? No, you don't have to, but I wouldn't put the color on it if you weren't going to fire it. And it would not be food safe, of course, because it has texture. It's going to last longer and be more durable if you fire it back, Jean, to the 015, 016 range. Okay? Hopefully that answers. So that's kind of cool. You can go back with just water on your brush, and you can soften some of that if you don't like the way that it looks or it moved more. You could have put a lighter green. I mean, there's all different types of things you can do. Okay? You're welcome. Does anybody have questions on this? So I'm using the color concentrate, and I used it on the ceramic, and I used it on the glass to tint or shade or add color to. And we're using color concentrates to do that with. Now, on the glass, you could use the enamels if you wanted. On your non-fired, your ornaments that don't fire, you can use acrylics. And I did these very dramatic. I don't know how many years ago I did this, but it shows you how you can add color to it. And I actually did a tinting with acrylics. I did it on the side of a glass vase. I did not pull that. All right. Any other questions? Are we good on this, or do you want to see more? But you could always come back and you could add a dot of red on top of here. I gotta remember what I did just so I can go back and make it match if you wanted it more intense. Or maybe a different color. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it. But I just thought that would be a neat way to do it on the back of there. Now, I'm going to show you how I did this, all right? So, the nice thing is, I need to move this piece of glass out of the way so I don't end up sitting my hand or another piece on it. Okay, so when I'm doing the larger, and I've never done this, I've always used the tips. I'm going to actually take the tip off. I'm going to set it over here in this damp sponge so it'll stay moist. And I'm going to use just the hole in the bottle because I'm doing a large area. Now, you can do this with a square shader. We've got the 2200 size 8 you can use, which is a Taklon brush. And I'm also using that number 4 round that comes in the kit. So either brush, you get a different look. And oh, the other important thing is when you're working, keep that laying down like this. Don't keep standing it up. You know, if you had the bottle and you stood it up, when you stand it up, then your piping paste goes down, and then you turn it over to start squirting it out, and you get this air pocket, and it burps on you, and then it spits and spatters, and it can create a mess. Okay? How did you add the color to the piping paste before you used it? I can, let me see if I have a bottle. I can do that. Let me finish on how to do, well, let me think. Do I want to do that? I don't have another 1 ounce bottle in here. I can show you a little bit in a little cup. So if you notice, do you see how this one looks a little flatter with those strokes? I use the square shader down here. I use the round brush up here so you have smaller strokes. Does that make sense? So these are flatter and these are more rounded. Either will work. If you only get the brush that's in the kit, then use that. You don't have to use the other one. But I'm going to show you how I did it. So this has been cleaned. Same thing, I would clean it with alcohol or vinegar, either one, okay? And then you want to take your piping bottle with your paste, whatever color you're using, and I did not have a tip on it. I took the tip off, and I'm only going to do, like, I'm going to squeeze very generously, like 2 areas there. Wet my brush. I'm going to put it in the glass medium, because remember that conditions the brush. Now watch this. I can take it and catch and pull, catch and pull, catch and pull, catch and pull. And you can make them different lengths. Now, wipe off that excess. So if you don't want to have it quite as thick, you can make it smaller. But I wouldn't do a very large area at a time because it's going to start hardening on the outside surface, and you're not going to be able to get the same look. Okay, so it just kind of depends on how much you want showing. Kind of cool. So we haven't done the flat brush before, so I thought I would show that option, something new. So glass is $13.80 with the 10-minute hold. Correct. If you're on glass. If you have a full fuse going in, you can do full fuse. It's just going to melt into your glass more. It's not going to stand up as much. Thanks for joining, Marilyn. Okay, so I'm not even using a tip on this, which I thought was kind of cool. So if something happens and you lose a tip, you can just squirt it out of there. Now, you're not going to get fine lines like you would. Sorry, it's like one of those things, you kind of have to do it and not talk at the same time. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I can't talk and walk at the same time. Or what do they say? Chew gum and walk. All right, so I'm cleaning. I've got a dirty and a clean. So this is my dirty. I'm going to jump over to my clean one and clean that out of that brush. When you're done with these brushes, you definitely want to clean them in water, and you can add a little bit of, take a bar of soap and clean it with some soap, because you don't want this to dry in your brush for sure. Okay, so I'm touching the surface, whether I'm using the tip or I'm using just out of that squirt bottle. So touch and pull. I'm going to kind of start going, at that angle because it follows the shape. You don't want to go back over it too much because you can start lifting, but I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a difference. And I am going to go over here and rinse real quick because this brush has a lot of that paste in it, and I don't want to ruin the brush. Okay, so let's do the next one. You can do it without the tip once again, but we're going to use the round brush. Remember, the same principles apply on whatever surface you're working on. So if you're wanting a big bold outline on a piece, you could do this. You could do it around the outer edge of this if you wanted. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it. Okay, now I'm going to get my round brush, load it in the medium, squeeze out the excess, and now I'm just going to touch and pull, or you can kind of nudge it to change the shape of it to make it look more ruffly, like lace if you wanted. Wipe out that excess, clean my brush, squeeze out the moisture. Hey, Kathy, you're right. Better later than never. My roadie. Hope you're doing well. Kathy has not got to go on the road with me since January. It's crazy. All right, so touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. So Kathy does gourds, and she can add this to her gourds, and she can put color over the top of it. You could let it completely dry and antique it with a color, with some of your acrylics if you do that kind of work. Piping, one of your favorite techniques. Yes, Ron, you are very good at it. Thanks for joining. So touch and pull, touch and pull. So Ron, what I'm doing is just showing a different way of using the bottle versus with the tip, so you can get a thicker area. But see, this one I did with the square, this one I'm doing with the round. So you've got to kind of look at it and make a decision how you want that to look. Okay, so I'm going to touch and pull, touch and pull. That way you can kind of give it a ruffly look to it. You can pipe, because this is low fire and no fire, so you can put it on any non-fired surface also. It's not meant to go on food surfaces, but you can use it on anything. On wood, you can accent wood, let it dry, and then antique over it. I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. Am I using the medium clean brush in between? Yeah, I'm wiping out the excess on my towel that I have here. See all my little marks? And then I'm going into the medium. I have a clean and a dirty well with the GM 300 glass medium in it. So yes, I want to keep that in my brush so that it doesn't stick in my brush if I don't get it clean. I don't want to ruin my brush. All right, so we got one more section here. So if you do acrylics, you can put this on your wooden trees or anything. I mean, anything, literally. And then, like I said, you can let it dry. And then you can come back and you can base coat over it. You can antique over it. You could rub gold metallic over. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. Your imagination is your limitation. And go back and watch some of those other piping videos. Touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. And I'm kind of nudging it to kind of give it that ruffly. Wipe out the excess, clean, clean, squeeze out the excess on your towel. And we got one more little section here. So touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. Clean. Okay, so now you've got that on there. So you can see when it's dry, it's more, this one's dry, more chalky looking than this one that's wet. And it's going to be more of a matte finish, where this one has a little bit of a gloss look to it because it's still damp and wet. Okay, so what I did to do these little doofers, I call them, on my ornaments, the little 3 teardrops, same thing. You can use a brush, or you can use a, trying to think, did I use, I don't remember if I actually squirted out of this or if I actually did it with the tip. I think I want to put the tip back on because I want it to be a little more finer. All right, any questions while I'm getting this going again? If using in ceramic applications, should you apply fired gold after firing? Gold is 018, so yes, that would be last. Ooh, that would be pretty to add gold accent on there. I might have to try that on one of these. You guys asked me to do gold on some of the ornaments that we did. So that's a great idea. Dupers. You call them dupers? Is that what you call them? So I'm going to show you the easy way to do it. You want to do a triangle basically, and I'm coordinating with the little curve of this particular tree. This is a Mako piece of bisque. This is earthenware bisque. You could slab. There's all kinds of templates you could do also. So I'm going to put a nice dollop for my 3 dots. Put that back into my damp paper towel. Grab your handy dandy toothpick and pull, pull, pull. So I'm sitting right in the middle of the dot and I'm pulling. You can do it that way. You can also use, you could use a stylus to do it with, or you can do it with the brush. This is kind of the no-brainer, and I don't mean that in any bad way. It's just, it seems to be easier for people to do it like this than to try to use a brush and do it, because some people don't have depth perception, and so that makes a little bit of a difference. So here's the stylus. So right in the middle, I always do the center one first and then curve in, curve in. Isn't that cool? I thought it was what you called it, doofers, D-O-O-F-E-R-S. You're close though. Crack you up. Hi, Terry from California. Love learning from you. Well, thank you. That makes me feel good tonight since I'm not 100%. Thank you, thank you. And I may have to skip next week. I think I'm overdoing it, and that's what's causing the migraines. and pain and all that good stuff. I was feeling better, and then yeah, should have listened to my body. On acrylics, Robin asked, could you use inks to color the, yeah, be careful, because like the alcohol inks or the deco art, be careful because those are really, really thin. Test just a small amount. You wouldn't have to add, but just a tiny bit. You might be better off, Robin, by doing the shading on top with your Sumi brushes. Okay, and I've got some acrylics out here. I'll show you that. But it does have to be bone dry before you can shade on top of any surface. Hey, Ginger, you're saving it for tomorrow. Okay, it's late where you are. All right, have a good evening, and it'll be here tomorrow, and it'll always be on YouTube. Don't forget. Okay. All right, so squeeze a nice dollop out. Make your triangle, and you can see that they're evenly spaced, or as close as I can get. And then I'm touching in the middle and pull straight down, touch in the middle, pull sideways, sideways. So on the ornaments, you see them right here. I've done them, so I use them as fillers if I need a space filled. All right, I'm going to do the rest of this row, and then we're going to switch gears and show you the gingerbread tree that Steve's waiting on. Okay, put that back inside your damp sponge, touch and pull, touch and pull, and touch and pull. If you don't like something, wipe it off and do it again. Just be careful. So you might want to let all of the branch type ones harden and then do these, because if you had to wipe it off, you would get into that. So do it in steps if you need to, if you're unsure. And I'm touching the surface every time I squeeze out any of the product. You don't want to be holding it up and dropping it on. You want it in contact with it. And I'm constantly cleaning off my tool. You're welcome, Robin. Okay, so everybody got that? So that's just another way. So you could tint these with a color and put them on also. All right, so Mr. Steve, I asked him to bring me a piece to the show. This is the cutest little, look at this little tree. It's a dish. Isn't that adorable? So what I did was use my 686 burnt sienna on this and base coat, which is a color stroke. I base coated it with 3 coats, and I put 2 coats of clear over it, and I fired it. And I wanted something to look like a gingerbread tree, like icing on gingerbread cookies. What do you think? Did I accomplish it? Maybe a little bit. Hopefully. Hopefully you think so. So same principles. On this one, I chose to do 3 doofers, and then I did some of the curves. Here I started out with the section. So this is the seam. Like you can see the seam here. This is the seam. I put 1 in the middle, and then I just kind of went up so that when I get them all done, it will look more like a piece of lace around there. And then I just added some dots and took my stylus and curved it. But on this one, trying to think of what I used. On the little guys up here, I used the tip for sure. So let's do some of it up here. So there are sections. I know it's hard to kind of see the sections, but there are sections on the tree, like where it's divided. So that's what I'm using as my guide. So same thing here. You're going to put your 3 dots, tuck that back in, and I believe I used the toothpick and pull up. Okay. And I did 2 sets of those, and then I did 1 at the top. So I was just trying to get the illusion of icing. Do your center one first. That seems to make it easier, at least for me. It's hard to do it and hold it up in the air. Usually I have it on the table. You like that, Steve? Isn't that cool? I expect to see one out of you. All right, so and then do another one and tap it in a little bit if you need to, and then pull up. And I'm constantly wiping my toothpick, my high-tech expensive tool. Okay, same thing here. It's just you're going to take the tip off and you're going to squirt it out like I did on the tree. So let me, and these tips are stainless steel, so I'm just going to put it in my damp sponge, but you could drop it in your water and you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to rust or anything. Okay, so the next one is the curves. So I've got the straight, so now I want to do the curve. So I've taken the tip off. I'm just going to squeeze out a nice dollop. I'm going to take a larger end of my stylus, tap it in, and curve it. You could do this on your ornaments too. Definitely think you accomplished the icing look. Well, thank you, Janice. I appreciate that. What is that bis from? Steve, can you chime in on Facebook and tell us whose mold? Because I don't think there's no marking. I don't know if it's an older or a newer piece, but he cast this for me. I'm sure that Steve will do the best for you if you want. He is on the Facebook feed, Steve Velino, and I hope I'm pronouncing it, Velino. You can always message him, and he will. But if you can type it in, what mold company, that would be awesome. All right, so I'm going to do another one here, and I'm going to pull it up, and then I'm going to do one over here. I kind of like these bigger. It just depends on the size of your piece, I think, will make a huge difference. I wouldn't use the big dollops like this on something dainty, okay? So think about the size of your piece before you start doing anything. Okay, so now you've got, isn't that the cutest look? I just love it. It's, you know, I would have loved to did more of the swirlies and the curly cues, but it's hard to do that on a slick surface. It would be easier on like a piece of wood, or, you know, with acrylics. Steve says it's an old Byron, B-Y-R-O-N mold. So, Steve, do you want to post your email? Are you okay with that if someone wants to get in contact with you, if they're not friends with you? Because sometimes if you are not friends, you know, you don't always see the messages that you get in Facebook. And if you want to pop over to, if anybody on, you can go over to Facebook and get his information, okay? All right, so it's just a cute, I got to watch where I put my hands. But isn't that adorable? Let me, I'm going to switch to the side camera so you can kind of see it. Isn't that cute? Adorable. I'm not going to go into all the, but you get the idea on how I did it, right? Hopefully. Okay. All right. All right. So that one is done. I'm going to move to ornaments if you guys are good with that. Is everybody? I'm going to set some of these pieces down because I do a lot of different things on ornaments. Making sure I'm not sticking my hand in something. Move this guy up here. Okay, so Steve has, I love the email. I never noticed that. one wacky one, spell out one, O-N-E, wacky, W-A-C-K-Y, one, O-N-E, at Comcast.net. So if you want to get a hold of Steve regarding that tree dish, feel free to contact him. He has the mold. He brought me a piece to Waukesha, Wisconsin. All right, now, it's been a while since we started and we've been using it, and I can tell you that my hands are extremely hot. I mean, just to touch my hand to my face, so it tends to dry the paste and the tip and everything out. So it comes with, in your kit, you get the syringe, there's a little green like Q-tip looking thing in there you can clean. There's 4 different tips. Pull up the water, attach the tip the same way as we did to the bottle, half a turn, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And I'm going to plunge and pull more moisture, more water up into it, and just keep plunging multiple times until it gets clean. Now you can take that, I never seem to have one of those little Q-tip things, mine always disappear. But you can take that and clean it out. You also want to tap that to get rid of any of the moisture, and you also want to squeeze out your first test after you put it on into a paper towel, because if there's still water in there, what is it going to do? It's going to get out on your piece. And I can tell you right now, it definitely is flowing a lot easier. So it just needs to be cleaned, yeah, every 20 minutes or so. We've actually been going, what, 45 minutes or so, almost an hour. Okay, so I'm going to stick this, I'm going to dampen my paper towel again, my shop towel, and stick that in there, and then I'm going to show you. So this is the ornament. I did not have the jewels on it when I photographed it to show you, but you can see I made it look kind of like lace at the top, and I'll show you that on one of them. I put jewels on it. I have some leaves without stems or veins, some with, some partial flowers on this one, and partial. But you can decorate the whole thing, but you can also use jewels. You can also use, you can put some stroke work in it with some acrylics, and we can do that later also. So here's one that I did a flower coming off of my jewels. I'm going to show you again. I go into real detail. For years until last year, I did an annual ornament class, and I showed you in detail what I did on trying to put the jewels on it and everything. So this needs a few more things on it. We'll do that because I've got a lot of empty space. But you also can put the jewels in the background. And dummy me, I was getting out my jewels to put those on, my little pearls, and I had glitter everywhere. I haven't had glitter on my table for a long time. I was like, oh, I'll be finding glitter forever, for sure. So here's a blue one. So you can, and this one's been sitting around for a long time, just partial. A lot of times I'll demo when I'm doing classes. Okay. All right, so let's get a plain one. Okay, so these are glass. They're really expensive now. I don't know if Robin's tried to find any or not lately, but they are, gosh, the last time I looked, like 4 of them for $50 some. Well, I bought mine. I always buy mine at Christmas whenever they have clearance. I'm going to get my jewels and stuff out so I can show you some different examples of those. And in my other videos, I show you how to put glitter in clear ornaments, colored glitter. There's all different types of things you can do. Here's a colored one. Okay, so you can go back and watch those in detail. I don't want to go into all of that tonight. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. All right, let's put that there. So you can find jewels. I call them jewels. These are actually for scrapbooking, and then you can accent with those to start with. And then I use a lot of the little, I think this pack is off of Amazon. I don't know that it tells you. If you just look for jewels. But I can tell you that when I do mine, I need a couple of packs because that's not going to be enough for my background, that particular size, because there's like 4 different sizes on here. I roughly put anywhere from 25 to 35, 40 little jewels in the background, and that's what makes them different. You haven't found any yet? Not. Oh, yeah. They're hard to find. Hey, Stacy, how are you after dinner? You had dinner without me? What'd we have? I'm hungry. Can this be done on Dollar Tree plastic ornaments? Absolutely, Jean. Absolutely. I can tell you that a lot of mine are plastic ornaments. This is plastic. I have glass ones also. And I don't know if you can see, this one's got just a silver jewel. It's real hard to see on this particular one. Hold on before I finish with that. So like here is a couple more of the glass ones. Aren't they cute? This is like your standard size ornament. And then this is a middle size. And this would be a large. So this was done, this is a plastic one, Jean. Okay. I rolled, just so you know, you can go back and watch that, but I rolled the inside with glitter it glue, and then I put the glitter inside that. Okay. And we sell, I have a few bottles of this left, because it's super, super expensive to have shipped. It costs more to ship this, it used to, if you look at it on Amazon. And so I put that in, dump out the excess, and then like here's an iridescent glitter just from Walmart, and that's what I put in the inside of most of my ornaments. So I think I have 3 bottles of that left. I'm probably not going to get any more. So if you need it, grab it. But here's a plastic ornament from Dollar Tree. Every year they might have the, the light bulb look. They may have round, or, there's all different ones. So this is just, this was rolled with an acrylic glitter, which takes forever to dry. I wouldn't recommend that. I would find a colored glitter and use the glue inside and then pour in the colored glitter, because that takes forever to do that. This one, and this had the same thing. And then I came back with treasure gold and accented, so folk art treasure gold from Plaid. I love the treasure gold to accent a lot of different things, and that's what, like the comma strokes and stuff. But can you see the glitter in the background? So plastic or glass. This just happens to be a colored glitter in this one. Okay, so these are painted with acrylics, but these have the paste on it. And I do take orders. It's been a year since I've been doing a bunch, but if anybody, it's early enough now that if you want to order, I can send you pictures of what color of ball that I have available and let you see that. Okay. The fun thing to do, especially on these turquoise ones, are these little snowflakes, which I think are adorable. And I've done a bunch out there. Those of you that do acrylics, if you're not, or anybody that wants to, I have another Facebook page called One Stroke, ONESTROKE, and more with Paula McCoy. And that's where you'll see my ornaments, canvas, wood, all different types of things. When I have time, that's my other passion. Okay, so I'm going to try to, these I've had for a while. Let's see if they are still sticky. So you can put that on, and now, okay, because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 open spaces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I can do a 6-petal flower around that, and that's the center of my flower. So we'll do some of these. A lot of times I'll take a toothpick to get the jewels off. Sometimes these bigger ones. So I'm going to alternate these and leave some room. That one you can see better. So you can find these. This particular one is Hobby Lobby. And I would alternate the colors so that they're not sitting right on top of each other. That's just a design thing. By the way, Robin says, my big dog knocked 2 of my glass ones over. Oh no. He didn't break your purple one I made you, did he? Because I don't have but a couple of those left. That would, yeah, these are glass, so I would definitely, you gotta be careful with them, for sure. Alright, so let's put another one down here. And let's do a blue one, like there. Okay, these are some different ones. I think these are fun looking. You might have to, they're all on a sticky base, so these are in the scrapbooking. One of the ones that used to be really good is Paper Studio at Hobby Lobby. You can get on their website, get on their email newsletter. They put them on sale a lot of times, but I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ornaments out of this $2.49 one. These are some fun ones I saw the other day. I thought that would be fun. These are different colored lights to put on one. You can just do solid jewels around, you know, the center, or you can drape it. So like this one has a different jewel on it. This one here, I used a string of pearls, and these are all on a sticky. So I just cut it the length I wanted to create that quilted type look. And those of you that have been friends for a while, I think it was, Robin, was it 3 years ago? I was on the cover of, and I didn't bring that one back here, of Painting World magazine with one of my acrylic ornaments. So it had kind of a quilted type look. It was black and gold and white. It was very, very elegant looking. So don't look at all the different sticky things for scrapbooking is what they're originally meant for. This has a little bit of a foam backing. I've never tried this one, but it would be fun. But most of these come single, and then I'm going to show you how to lift them off. There's teardrop ones. Once in a while you'll find gold, or this one has beautiful little silvery ones. Let me turn my light back down. It's got like little silver bumps, little jewels on it, which is really cool. I don't have any more of those, I don't think. I couldn't find them. Alright, so that's the one we used. Let's move those, and I'm going to show you what I would do. So with chalk on the matte finish, not on the shiny ones, but on the matte finish, and that's the problem that we used to have. It would come with half matte and half shiny, and it's hard to get a pattern. The matte ones are nice because I can literally draw myself a pattern on here to kind of have a guide of what I want to do. Do you see the petals now? Is it coming? And we won't probably do that one. We'll just leave it as a little embellishment. So you see the flower now, so that's why I like using that star or snowflake. Alright, so we're going to get our brush. I'm going to condition it with the medium. Get my piping. Let's double check to make sure it doesn't have water. So I squeezed it out over here on my towel. Okay. Steak and veggies. Hey, I could have done that. You forgot to invite me, Stacy. I started to say it's probably warmer at your house, but gosh, we were like 80 degrees today. Alright, so I'm going to take, and on the flat, okay, and same thing, I'm going to touch and pull. Whoops. Touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. I'm going to wipe some of that off because I've got a little bit more there than I needed. So I can kind of gently take that off real quick. Clean my brush. Turn. The only problem with the ornaments is you've got to let them set, and I set them in the cups so they can dry. But if you're working on, I usually do 10 or 12 at a time. So by the time you're done with one side of one, you can go down and do the other. So this would be the same principle if you wanted to do it on glass. Just determine where your center was, and you can do your paste. You could do it on clear glass, have a pattern underneath. And I've got, you can go back on the blog and look at some of the other, some of them I give you like a sheet with the paste on it, you know, as a reference. So if you just type in piping or paste on the website, you can see all the different options. I actually have some classes that I've done that you can purchase and download also. $80 in Reno, right? Are you in Reno? Stacy. Touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. So if you're doing a ceramic ornament, just glaze it in a color and clear glaze it, or you could put a matte glaze on, either one. If you had the matte glaze on it, you could use the chalk. Okay, think about that. I base coated one in our matte medium, Steve, because I know you have it, and I didn't get it fired, which was silly because, well, anyway, I fired that other tree last night. So I just give myself a base or a guide, and then I kind of create it as I go. Ready? And touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. So the key is, remember, I'm not going all the way down. So let's watch where I set that paste. So I'm not coming all the way down to the little, hold on, I'm going to zoom in. I'm not coming all the way down to the little snowflake. I'm going to back it off a little bit, about at least an eighth, but probably almost a quarter of an inch. My tip is laying to the side, and I'm touching the surface. I'm not gouging it, I'm not scratching it, but I am touching it. And then when you take that first brush stroke, that completes the edge of that petal. Touch and lift, touch and lift, touch and lift, touch and lift, touch and lift. So I'm just kind of doing that sweeping motion. I would practice on construction paper, is a good place to practice a little bit. Robin says the classes were great. Thank you. I did one with acrylics and the paste. I think that's the advanced one. And then I have one that's not. And I have some paperwork you can buy and download if you want that shows you a whole bunch of different ways, different designs I've done. So go check those out. Touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. Just a nice light touch, wispy touch to it. But isn't that pretty? So now you've got your center already created. If you didn't, so one of these I had, so like this one I had a single like jewel. So I put a dollop of the paste, and then I took the jewel and set it on there and squished it on. And that act as that of glue, or you could just put the dots around the center also. Okay. All right. So I can leave this one. I'll have to let this set and dry because I can't hold it because I'll stick my fingers in it. But I'm going to go over here and we'll do some leaves on one. Let's see what we need filled in. So let's fill in a little leaf here without any veining. So if I just want a small one, I'm staying away from the stem, creating the leaf, condition your brush, squeeze out the excess, and now you're just going to pull, pull, touch and 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 pull. And you've got a little leaf on there. Do you seal the paste or just let it dry and you're done? I have not sealed them, and I'll tell you on the ornaments, and I'll tell you why, Steve. Because if you do a spray sealer, you've got these jewels that have all the glisten to them, and I don't want, I guess you could spray seal the whole thing with a gloss, but then you lose your matte background. So it's a catch-22. I've not had, and I stuck my finger in it. Did you see that? All right, so let me show you how to fix that. I'm going to grab some of the medium with a little bit more in my brush, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to push it back towards. Now, if you have really, really super old ornaments, like antique from your mom when you were a kid, I'm talking like, 40, 50 years old, this medium, and I think any water at all will pull off. I know the medium does. It'll actually pull off the color on those. They're not the same as what they are nowadays. We did these at the end of the class at Marjan's in Phoenix in January. We did, yeah. So this is a great refresher. Yeah, it's absolutely. So I would not, I don't feel the need to seal. I mean, you could do a brush sealer if you wanted, but I would not. And there's other people out there that do seal. I think it's just a personal preference, Steve. but do you have to? No. After 24 hours, it is dry and you're good to go. So ready and pull. So I'm creating the veining by the way I'm brushing. So I slightly turned my piece and I'm just pulling in, which gives me the angle that the veins would be. All right, so then we have to let that one dry because I can't touch the other side. Let's see what we can do on this one. Okay, so if we were going to do a bigger leaf on this one, and I usually try to make everything, see the flow, it's coming off of the jewel. So I would do the vein first. We would let that dry. And then while that's drying for a second, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you how I cut this up real quick because I've got some others I can show you and put it on there. If I can get it out of here. Feeling handicapped. All right, so on this particular, in this, they usually have, they used to have these in beautiful colors, as you can see, the blues and all different colors. Pearl, the silver or the clear, and then maybe an iridescent is all I've found in the last couple of years. So right there, I cut those, so those are two separate sides of an ornament. Okay, so like here is the curl, and here's one that's sprayed out. So that's that one there. So let's cut these off and we'll do it on an ornament so that you can see that real quick. So here is a blue one. Grab a cup. So I'm going to peel that off. It can be a little tricky. Be gentle with it. And I'm going to stick it on. Be careful pushing too hard. I have some frosted glass ornaments that I was putting jewels on, and it literally crushed and cut me. So these won't do that as much, but just be cautious because they are glass. You don't want to, and it's very thin glass, so you don't want to cut yourself with it. That other is even more fragile, and I will not ship any kind of the frosted ones that are glass because they're just way too fragile. Okay, so I'm going to go across from this. I got to get my finger down on it. Sometimes that can be tricky. And usually you can just take your finger and walk it around, and it's there. Now, if you have these come off, you can put you out some super glue, and with the toothpick just dab some down. Sometimes if these, you know, your jewels are older, you might have an issue with them, and you can glue them on. Do the jewels ever just peel up? Would you use E6000 to reattach? I would use super glue. You could use E6000, but that's going to take, and I don't have the patience to watch it dry. And occasionally I'll pick up one of these, and it might have, and I would, I put a sheet with the ones that I sell. I put a sheet in there that says store them in a controlled environment, because you don't want them in, you know, Texas and Arizona in the attic, okay, because that could cause it to lift off too, Jean, especially you being out there in the Phoenix area, okay. So keep them inside the house in a closet or something. Don't put them in the attic or in the garage. But you can always, if you're doing them to sell, make you a little sheet that has that little, not that the customer is going to read it, but I do put it in there just in case. Because if I go to the time to put all of this on there, and see, this one is just a different, this is like a pewter colored ball. It's really pretty. So this is a different one. You can find a lot of different things at the Dollar Tree. Hobby Lobby, Michael's. I'm trying to think of where else. If you go out to my One Stroke and More page, a lot of that I may have had some posts with some links to different things. So you just have to keep your eyes open to see what's available. Okay. I think I will dull the gems. You're going to spray seal it. Is that what you're saying, Robin? Okay, so I work with whatever jewels I'm putting on there. So this one coming off, I can create a flower. Sometimes you got to find just the right. I'm going to scratch this. This is a new piece of chalk, so it doesn't like to work. Okay, so I'm going to do like a bud here. Now, if you can do it and you don't need to put this on, that's fine. You can do it freehand if you want. But this kind of keeps me in control so that I know what I'm doing. Visually, I can know how much space I've got, I guess is a better way to put it. Okay, so Robin says she's going to dull all of hers. You're going to put a matte spray on everything, probably. Okay, so first thing, I'm not going to do the stem to the bud, but I am doing the stems to the leaves. It's hard to talk and do this at the same time. Okay, so that one I would set down. Now this one should be dry enough. So I'm going to get my brush, get it conditioned, squeeze out the excess, and I'm going to start my leaf over here, and I'm going to curve it around and go over there. So touch and pull, touch. You can nudge it a little bit if you want to change the shape of it. And see how I'm turning the ornament so that I can get the angle correct, so that I'm always pulling those strokes down towards me, just like you would with a brush stroke. Watch for sales on the gems all year. Yeah, you never know when they're going to have a sale, so it's always nice to, and if you're on their email list, that's even better, because then you can just do it from home and you don't have to go in the store. And Hobby Lobby is just up here in Oklahoma City, so I can usually get them really quick if they happen to have the Paper Studio ones on sale. They had them on sale, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I was in the store and there was some on sale. So I did one without a vein, center vein, and then one with. So if I need something over here, I can do another no veiner, so to speak. So you can go back and fill in if you miss, like the gap or something, if you don't want that in there. And touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. All right. Any questions on that part of it? Sorry, the light. I'm sorry. It's like if I take the light away, you can't see, and then if I don't, you... And I almost stuck my finger in it. All right, so let's go back to this guy. So I'm going to rinse my brush in water, and do you see my chalk mark? I can just take a slightly damp brush, and I would wait till I'm completely done normally, and just wipe off any of my chalk marks that I got smaller or larger, whatever, when I did that. And then that's all gone. Okay, so let's go back to this guy. Back to condition with my glass medium. And you want to do whatever is further away first. So if I wanted a vein, we could do that one there. I'll let that dry for a minute while I do this. But I just sketch it on there, and then I just kind of do my own thing. I wave it, touch and pull, touch and pull. So it's like you're making almost like a comma with it, and then now you come the other way, come down. Even if you're slower in doing it, just pipe one side at a time, do your brushwork and then do the other side. Just make sure you start up at the top and come down. Don't start here and come up. It does make a difference in the look. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around and we're going to do another one. Okay, do you see how far back? I am a 1/4 of an inch back from that stem, because when I do that first stroke, I'm pulling it almost down to the stem. Pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. So you don't want to have it all the way down to your stem, because you've got nowhere to pull. You got this big blob of paste that you've just wasted. Think of it that way. You don't want to waste it. So how many of you have tried this, or you're going to try? The kits are on sale if you came in late. I did put all the paste kits on sale. And there's a link at the top of the, there's one at YouTube pinned to the top, and then Facebook has it at the very top also. Stacy, you're going to try this? She's going to say, no, I'll just buy one. If you can't squeeze, if you got really bad arthritis, I don't recommend it. And I've had carpal tunnel, so I have to, it's getting, I used to be much better than what I am now. Okay, so I'm going to go down. I'm looking at where my stem is here. So I'm going to go towards my stem with that petal, because this is a partial flower. We're going to see one of them from the back side. Tuck that in my damp towel, pull, tuck, tuck, pull, pull, pull. Nobody's talking to me that they're going to try this. Robin, you going to do some this year? Sorry, I was too far back. No, without sticking my finger in that leaf. Touch and pull, 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 touch and pull. Cyan is Kathy. I have a large gourd and I plan to paste that when we, oh, okay, after you've moved. I'll have to talk to you later about that. All right, so that front one, you can wait and let this dry, or you can put one on there right away if you feel like you're not going to disturb. And I'm aiming down towards that stem. Do you see how everything is stroking? Because that's where it's growing from, so that's where it would be coming out of. Does that make sense? We're all so fascinated in watching you. Well, thank you. In my space time, touch and pull. Love the squeeze bottle. Oh, okay. You bought the ornaments on last chance, so hopefully paste is okay. Check it and see. Open it up and see. You may have to take a skim off the top of it and see. May not do an ornament, but I'll try it on soft. Yeah, on the sled and deer. Oh, that would be really cool. That would be cool on a ceramic piece. All right, so on this half one, what I do is just kind of put a blob out here, kind of in a triangle shape, and then pull it down. And sometimes if I can't get it to go, I'll take my brush and I'll pull that stem down to make the stem calyx type area. Okay. Robin says her favorite is the purple one that I did for her. But yes, she's doing more. Well, thank you. I only found those purple ones in Oklahoma City when I was coming through there. I was a diehard ornament collector and finder, let me tell you, when I was doing. One year I think I did like 160 of these. I sold these, and then the acrylic painted ones, like these. See this has got two sets of bling on it, and then I accented with the. So a lot of times you'll find the jewels that match, or you used to be able to match it. Okay, while that dries for a second, I'm going to show. This one is sold. A lady contacted me the other day, but I want to back off and show you this one so you can appreciate. So this has got gold jewels to match the gold cap, and then I used another gold there. But see how you can take, and Robin's purple one is like this. I took little tiny jewels, and you just pick them up with the toothpick and lay them on there and stick them on. And I accented around. See that there? You can see the blingy. Isn't that cool? And then here on the partial, like we just did, so I added some of that bling up in there and some dots of the paste so that it gave it that glittery kind of look. Added the doofers like we did on the tree. So I do the leaves, the petals, and then I do the doofers, and then I fill in with bling, the single blings. Just make sure you have enough of the same size, because it does look kind of funny if you don't have the same size. Of course, on this, you would want smaller ones up there, but isn't that cool? So I have a few different colors of these left, but this one is sold. These are $34.95 for these big ones. You can see how big they are. They're gigantic. I don't remember. I think they're almost 5 inches across, 4.5. And then this size is more like the 3, and then these are 2.5-ish. I think your standard size. The purple one goes above the fireplace. No dogtails. Yeah, definitely wouldn't want to do that. Tried these a few years back. Loved it, Leanne says, and never tried it again. Well, you need to get back on that. It does take a little bit of time, you know, but... So then you would just pick another. I don't do leaves on this one. I just do the petals on it, and you just keep going around and around. So once you get done, then you can go back and you can add the jewels. So if I thought I was done with this one, which I don't think I am, and this one has the little silver dots, but I think you get the idea. And like I said, I do have a PDF that has a ton of different designs that I've done over the years. Sometimes I do the holly like I did on the glass. Like I said, these are fun. You can put them around the ornament. Here's a silver one. This is some that students were practicing on. But I have about 400 ornaments, so if anybody needs any gifts, let me know. I can paint them up, that's for sure. Love yours, but mine need lots of practice. It does take practice. You got to remember, I've been doing this for lots of years. Gosh, I've been piping for over 20 years, probably 25. Where do we find the ones for sale? Stacy, go to my One Stroke and More with Paula McCoy Facebook page, and just go find one that you like. Do a screenshot or download it, send it to me, and just say that's what I want. Or you tell me what size you want. I'll send you a picture of the colors that I have available, and we'll go from there. Because I just do whatever feels right. But if you say, I want that quilted look, and then I also use like an acrylic silver or gold, whatever happens to go with the colors that I'm using, marker to sign that one. Let's see. That one that I had, I don't know if you saw, but that's how this one I painted back in 22. This is like a burgundy. Stacy, I have 1 or 2 of this big one available that I can paint up. But I might, if you want holly on it, I'll put holly versus the other. Here's the bigger, I did bring. So here's one I started. This has got that bigger bling, so I just divided it in half. And then I started, this has got the rest of the flower to do, but you can see that I started putting the chalk on there, so I would come in here and do the rest of this flower. And then I've got a half there. So it doesn't matter what you can find as far as the bling. You don't even have to do that. You could do stroke work, okay? And then do your paste around it, or vice versa. I forgot to show you. Here's that ornament that I fired that had all the little strokes on it. Isn't it cute? Kind of like that one. What else can I show you? If you want to, I can do some strokes on, not these two. Where's my finish? Those are finished ones. I don't want to do it on that one. But I can do silver on this one if you wanted to see some brush strokes. Those of you that do, the red one is beautiful. Thank you. It's like a burgundy type color. Like I said, and that was, I haven't seen any of those in forever. All right, I have a set of brushes that I use for my acrylics. I have a set for my fired product. So I am pulling out my acrylic ones now. So if I wanted accents on this pewter one, this is Folk Art Treasure Gold. It's called Antique Silver. So it's like a silver color. I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to stick that out of the way so I don't stick my hand in it. I use, oh, and it's not open. Oh, lovely. I use my 3600 number 2 liner. I can tell you when I paint my ornaments, like I said, I do 10 to 12 at a time, and that's all I can do in one day. And sometimes it takes a day and a half, and that's dedicated to doing it. They take a lot of work. That's why I charge what I charge for them. Okay, she will even do one for each member of your family. She did my, yeah, for the sister-in-law. I did do that, didn't I? I forgot about that. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here. Usually I use out of my lid, but since this one, so this is a silver color, and let's say that I just felt like I wanted a little more blingy to it, so I could pull in some comma strokes in this 3600. You keep it really, really full, and it works great for doing comma strokes. And do you see how that just gives it another dimension, another shimmer? Let's go this way. We don't want to go too many in the same direction. You don't want a pattern, in other words. You want to make sure you vary. And I can only do one side. But that's another, so maybe you didn't have the jewels. You could just use this to create that bling look, because it has that glittery type look to it. And I would do it, you know, all over in different, so I just did a little baby one there. So hopefully that gives you some ideas what you can do with your ornaments. And even on this one, let me set this one down where I'm not going to stick my fingers in it. So I used a blue treasure gold on this one to match the blue that I did my brush strokes with. And so this one I rolled the inside with that glitter it glue. Like I said, I have a few of those on the website. And then I put the glitter in it, rolled it, dumped out the excess. I usually do like 25 at a time on that. It's just easier to mass produce. And Leanne knows what I'm talking about. She does a lot of shows. And then you can just accent in different places. 2 strokes, 1 stroke, and I still put my name on it. So I did this one back in 21. And then you can accent inside these jewels, or like I said, create, look at some of mine, look at the patterns that the jewels create, do it with your treasure gold or a color, it doesn't matter. And then you can do red and green and gold, or you could do 2 different blues and use silver with your blue, and it's a really nice look. Any questions on that? It's not showing up with the well lit. You want me to turn that light? Can you see it there? You can kind of see the shimmer with it there. And I think you can see it on the other. I can change that camera and show you. Can you see the shimmer on that one there? You can kind of see the metallic there as I move it a little bit. See it glistening. Kind of cool. All right, guys. Any questions before I sign off for tonight? I need to go rest since I just got that all over me. Be sure and clean your piping tip. Like I said, I'm going to just throw mine in the water. It is stainless steel. And then I'm going to find my cap. I always put my cap in my little paint well because I'm constantly losing it. Put that back on there. If you're in a dry climate, put that in a Ziploc bag. Same thing, set it in the fridge. Keep it laying down or keep it upside down in a mug or something so that you don't get those air pockets in it. Okay? Any other questions? You're welcome, Marie. I think Marie has one of my ornaments. The blue is pretty. Thank you. This one, that's why I'm keeping this one, because I can't find these silver. This one, I won't sell these two. I'll make something similar, but these are mine. I don't have a tree. I have like a metal tree that I can hang all my different ornaments that I've done. I'll have to, when I set it out, I'll have to take a picture and post it. Okay, guys, hopefully this gives you some ideas. If you, you can go back to the post on Facebook where I have the banner that's behind me, and you can click on it and you can download that image if you want to save that for a pattern so you can look at what I've done. Thank you. I am going to go rest. Yeah. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Stacy. All right, Janice. All right, you guys take care. And I'll try to be on next week, but I'm not going to promise it. I think I need to take a week off and rest my back because, like I said, I was out with migraine all day Saturday and a part of Sunday, and then it started coming back today again. So, okay. You took a ton of notes. Awesome, Jean. I can't wait to see. Post what you guys do. I love to see what you do. Hopefully I'm doing something that's going to inspire you to use your products or the products that you have. If you can make a dot to make a common stroke with acrylics on your ornaments and pull with the handle of that brush, and you can get you know, a common stroke too if you can't do a stroke with a brush. But it does take a little bit of practice. But go out there to the blog, find those, or just type in paste or piping into the search bar. It'll bring up everything, whether it be purchased, kits, bottles, everything that's out there on paste. Okay? All right. Thanks, Mary. Okay. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.